Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. I'm Sean,
I'm Anthony.
I'm Missy.
And I'm Ray.
and we are going to talk about pretty much my greatest fear, and that's spiders. A
Oh
lot,
yeah,
a lot of spiders.
that's
Boy,
true.
I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about Infested. We're going to start spoiler free. We may go into some spoilers. We'll give you ample warning. I really just want to convince people to watch this movie. I am fucking terrified of spiders, and I loved Sting. Sting was a fucking episode of My Little Pony compared to this movie. This movie was fucking terrifying beyond all belief. I haven't had a viewing like this in 20 fucking years. I think the only thing where I
Wow.
felt tension like this in a horror movie, like I think two movies spring to mind. Evil Dead 2013. Especially the first time I saw it, it's always tension filled. And then uh Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve, however you say his name.
Villanueva.
Not a horror movie, but so intense that it just like left me exhausted. And this movie, holy shit, man. God damn, is Infested just fantastic. Man, Anthony, so you're the one that put this on our radar, I feel like. Talk about this movie. You knew about this movie when it had a different title. Like, tell me how this came on your radar, what got you interested. Tell me everything, your life story.
Well, it all started when I was 4 years old. Uh, I had a Bozo the Clown. Not kidding. Anyway, now 2023, we started to get rumblings about this film. Went under a French title called Wyrmwood. I don't know if I'm saying that properly or not, but also translate to vermin or verminous. We were supposed to get something coming stateside, and then it kind of floated around in limbo for a bit, and then all of a sudden Shudder's like, hey, we've got this great new spider movie coming out. I'm like, couldn't be. And sure enough, upon further inspection, vermin has been renamed Infested, and geared up for American consumption via Shudder. And I'm glad it is. I wish the name didn't get changed, but it's still I'm glad this movie is now accessible to United States audiences, and that probably means a Blu-ray will be coming down the pike. And I'm an idiot, so I'll be adding it to the collection and whatnot. But yeah, I heard about this last year. Jammed it around to a couple different people who I thought might be interested, and here we are today. This thing dropped on Shudder on April 26th, I believe, correct? And
Yes.
everybody here has been able to see it, and by the time everybody listening to this episode at home, you'll be able to see it as well. So again, this thing is out there, and for fans of arachnophobia and shit like that, like, this is right up your alley. It gave me the fucking heebie-jeebies more than once, and I have my own personal hatred of spiders, and I know this is why something like this will definitely, irk me. And this is also another reason why I ran to go watch Sting when it came out. But this, I feel like, is a completely different type of breed of spider movie. This is more, it's not for shits and giggles. This is definitely meant to terrify, and it does at times. So I'm glad that a movie like this is coming out, at this time, especially as a companion piece to Sting. I think it's fucking great. So it's out there, it's ready for consumption, and it's fucking awesome, and I'm glad it's here. So yeah, let's get into it.
So director Sébastien Vanicek, I don't know if I'm saying that properly. I'm trying my best. This is a debut. He did a lot of shorts. Man, what a fucking debut. I love seeing debuts like this. He was also one half of the team. So original idea screenplay, Sébastien Vanicek. Screenplay, Florent Bernard. Cast, Theo Christian plays Caleb. Knocked it out of the fucking park. I loved him. I mean, goddamn, such a great performance, great character. Sophia Lisa Frey is Lila. Jerome Neal is Mathis. Lisa Nyarko is Manon. Finnegan Oldfield is Geordie. That's the major cast. That is your group of friends. Ray, how did you feel about? You just finished this today, right? A little while ago.
Oh no, I watched this yesterday.
Okay. How did this make
Yeah.
you feel?
I liked it. I thought without having seen Sting, but I remember I heard Missy talk about it. I heard Anthony talk about it. Both of them described it as fun. Um, this is really good, and I think if I can offer the suggestion without having seen Sting, I can assume from what you guys are saying, I would think that it's probably the comparison of like the Meg versus Jaws, and that this is more like
Yeah.
Jaws.
Absolutely.
I
Because the
agree with that.
stakes are so real in this one. The characters are so important. Like, besides Caleb and his sister and his friends, like you have the people in their apartment building, and like he clearly cares about them and
Yeah.
wants to try and get as many people out as he can. And you know, every death matters, and every person that ends up getting turned into spider fodder is unfortunately something you care about, and you're like, oh man, that sucks. Like, the deaths, you feel them and you care about those people as much as the characters do. And um the effects are fantastic. Like, I was not expecting. I don't know. I would be curious to know like how much of like the spiders were practical.
I know the answer to
And
that
like,
question.
okay.
So there's an article in the newest Fangoria about this movie, which made me super fucking happy.
Okay.
50% of the spiders you see on screen are real.
That's dope.
That's awesome.
That's penis softening. Fuck that.
He wanted mise-en-scene for the actors and for the spiders. He lit and staged and blocked around the real spiders. Like, even the VFX,
Wow.
he told them, the VFX, I want it modeled after the way. So watch the spiders and then basically just, visually clone that, blow it, enlarge the size, and then make it behave the same way. All the
That's
react. I mean,
That's awesome.
Because even like the scenes where you suddenly have all these like giant spider babies erupting from sacks and going after people, like that doesn't look like shitty computer generated nonsense. Like, it looks fantastic. Like, it looks real. And I was just like, man, that they did a great job. Like, the effects are so good on this
Yeah.
movie. Which I think is part of why, like, I don't have a fear of spiders, like you guys do. But man, I can understand, like, if you have a fear of spiders, like this would fucking unnerve you as you're watching. Just plus, without going into any spoiler territory, like the main character Caleb and his best friend growing up are like lovers of animals. So Caleb and his friend have no issue with touching or handling bugs, spiders, things that are out there. And just the way that they're so comfortable sometimes with those things, can I assume through someone that has that phobia would just be like, oh, stop touching it, please stop touching it.
Yeah.
It must have
You're
just driven me
supposed to burn them.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're supposed to burn them.
Don't burn the spideys.
But yeah, knowing that that's the case for some people, like that would probably just be like, oh, this is hell. Oh my god. Like, yeah, but man, it's it's really entertaining. It's inventive, and the characters and all the actors do a great job. It does, like I said, the drama is there. It definitely feels, you definitely feel its European roots. And I don't
Yeah.
think that's a bad thing. What I mean by that is that like European movies tend to not mind like being dramatic and invest themselves in their characters, and not necessarily be like, well, let's just make it fun and goofy and like gory. Like, no, let's go ahead and make this movie and let's do something that's like compelling and interesting and uh the tension is there. And yeah, they do a great job. This movie's it's really good. It's fantastic.
They do, and I would like to say, spinning off a couple things you said. First of all, what you feel for the peripheral characters that live in this giant apartment, you feel it. You spend so very little time with them. You feel
Yeah.
it because of how Caleb feel. You get brief scenes where Caleb
Yes.
expresses love and caring for these people very
Yeah.
briefly, and so it translates to you. And I thought that was
Yeah.
really that Theo Christian really delivered that, and it was written that way. So like props all around. That was a great device to quickly, because this movie's lean too. There's not a moment where you're like, oh, looking at your watch.
Oh yeah, no, it is for sure.
Basic, you get your basic setup. Guys capture these things in the desert. It ends up in France. He buys it, brings it to his apartment building. It gets loose and it procreates and infestation. There you go, right?
Yeah.
The other thing he said in this Fangoria article is really, really great. So the director said he very specifically wanted to set it in a less like in a lower class or like lower middle class suburb in France, because the analogy here is in Paris, people don't want the kind of people that are in this movie there. They see them in their city and they want them gone. And so the microcosm that reflects that macrocosm is these people see the spider in their house and they want it gone. He said he very much played with this idea of the spider representing the like kind of lower class, quote unquote. And I thought that really added a lot of heart to it as well. And just also like this is this guy's first feature. Like I love all of the gears spinning here.
I mean, just to add to that, I mean, also like foreigners. Like a good majority of these people are
Yeah,
either first generation France or Parisians or or literally new to the country.
yeah.
And that country, much like any other country in the world, is having its issues right now about
Xenophobia.
how these people are here. And I think the other thing that I almost forgot about, and like I was like I was so impressed by, was this movie clearly shows itself as a um what's the word I'm looking for, post uh pandemic film,
Yeah.
because of the reaction of like they don't know what it is when the first person dies, and so the police just show up and are just like, okay, you're quarantined, you can't get out, like no matter what's happening, and they don't want to listen
Yes.
to it, they don't want to hear about it, they're just like, you just have to stay in there
Yep.
and we'll let you know when you can come out. And it's like, dude, people could just be dying. And like it clearly operates on that level of that xenophobia, but like we live in a world now where like when something like COVID happens, that's the reaction that's probably going to take place of like, okay, we don't know what the hell this is, and rather than let a whole bunch of more people die, we're going to just sacrifice these people in this building and good luck to you until we can get the medical professionals out here to figure out what the hell is happening here. And like, unfortunately for them, time is running out and like they cannot stay.
They cannot stay. Uh, Missy, what did you think about Infested?
I loved Infested. I thought it was a fantastic creature feature that pretty much doubles as like super intense siege horror. Um, the cinematography is fantastic. The camera work makes you feel like you're right there in the action, while everything's happening. And I really loved when you get like you get these crazy spiral shots as things are spiraling out of control. When like when as the characters become more frenzied, the camera does too, and it's like barreling down the hallways with them. Like I thought that was fantastic. The ambience is claustrophobic. I'm not afraid of spiders, but I mean, my brother my brother had tarantulas and stuff, so I'm one of those people that is okay with these things. But I mean, we were talking about multitudes of spiders. So I mean,
Oh,
being in an enclosed space trying to get through these hallways with all these spiders, insane amounts of spiders, like that's
Well,
it's
and these are
terrifying and
fucking terrifying spiders. These
terrifying
Oh.
are,
spiders.
I mean, if you're okay with tarantulas, like this is still a
Well,
level. This is like
Right.
Australian bird eating shit. Like it's
Right.
fucking terrifying.
yeah.
Well, and
Eh,
I mean, there's a big difference between a tarantula and 500 spiders in an apartment building.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Like,
found myself
they're-
curious. Like when he said 50% of the spiders you see are real, I found myself wondering what is the biggest spider you used?
Yeah, me too, dude.
Because there's big
Me
spiders out there,
too.
not as big as the ones, some of the ones in here, but there's spiders out here I've seen pictures of that are pretty fucking big. And
Well,
oh
I'm
god,
pretty sure that Australian bird eating is like can be as literally as big as that one in that car scene.
oh dude, fuck
I think
that
so,
shit.
too.
Fuck, fucking bomb the world. Like
Psycho.
knowing that exists makes
All
me
I'm
want the world to end. Oh,
All I'm
God.
saying is, if you go to Australia, just stay out of the outback. Apparently,
Oh.
they've got some shit out there that is unique, and you don't want to see it and mess with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't even get
it
me
just
started on
always-
kangaroos.
It all reminds me of that Charles S. Dutton speech from Alien 3 when he's like, we're going to trap it. We're all going to fucking die doing it. But we're all going to make sure that we leave this place.
Yeah, true.
I mean, this movie tends to borrow certain elements from other things. I mean, bits of this you can take from Record. I mean, yeah, there's stuff that's, transplanted from Rec into this. But I mean, I've said before that this movie tends to wear its influences on its sleeves, and but it's effective. It's very effective, and I mean, going back to camera work, you can see why when this was screened in Europe and Raimi saw it, he's like, okay, that's the guy that's doing the next Evil Dead movie, like no questions asked. So this guy goes from this debut to Evil Dead, like that's fucking nuts. That this guy's gonna do the Evil Dead movie.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And I feel
Okay.
like Raimi's good at that because it's like the way he went and saw that Fede Alvarez's Panic Attack short from like 2006 or 7, flew down to Uruguay and was like, come back to the States. And, there you go. So I mean, I'm so excited this guy's doing an Evil Dead movie.
And that's awesome. I didn't know that, but that's really cool.
Yeah, so look forward to more of this guy's work coming at us in the near future, and hopefully it's a level up from the last Evil Dead movie we saw. But I'm expecting good things from this guy, and I'm really excited to see what he does with the Evil Dead franchise. Well, with the next film anyway. But yeah, solid fucking film across the board. Again, this is on Shudder for the listeners. By the time you hear this, it is already available for you. So fucking support the shit out of it. Give it some views. And tell your friends, and yeah, let's get this fucking thing going. It's great.
Yeah. It's fun. It's in a traumatizing way. Take it from somebody that like, yeah, I really don't like spiders. They scare the shit out of me. And it was just such an intense watch. Like
It is.
man, I don't know. Like, so Missy, you don't have well, not just you don't have a fear, but you grew up around tarantulas. Like, I wonder how that like intensity translates.
For me, what I found more stressful was the claustrophobic ambience and the fact that you're trapped in here with all these people. I mean, and again, 500 going down a hallway with 500 spiders on it, I wouldn't like that either. But I'm much more afraid of being trapped, especially with a lot of people, than I am of spiders. But I mean, the spiders they're awesome in this. I'm glad
Yeah.
it was it was a cool deviation from, stuff like Sting where you get like a big bad spider. There
Mhm.
wasn't a big bad spider. There were
A
thousands
few
of
big bad
spiders.
spiders.
And like the spidey, the sounds the spider
Yes.
made was
Oh, yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dude.
That skittering, I loved that.
That like click, like I don't know about you
Right.
guys. So the whole time I watched this movie, I had like a quarter of a beer when I started the movie. I didn't pause it to get another beer, right? For the whole, I just couldn't. I was just glued. It ended. I got up. I went to get a beer. I was hearing that fucking sound. So I'd like flip the lights on in my garage where my mini fridge is with all my beer. And I'm here. I'm like looking over my shoulder. I know they're not there, but it doesn't matter. It just imprinted on me so fucking hard. Oh, God. Oh.
Well, and I mean, and you know, the design of the spiders is real. The fact that they use real, they model them after real spiders. I mean, it's like, you know, like Missy said, it's not just like one, it's like a bunch, and just knowing that like a bite will kill you, like you'll die slowly, but a bite will kill you. So like, yeah, and like you're trying to like go through hallways that have like hundreds or thousands, like shit, like that's Jesus, that's rough, like, you know, and like, I mean, they vary in size. Like I you know, like for anyone who hasn't seen this movie, like they go from like the size of like a 50-cent piece all the way up to something like the size of a basketball. And you're like, Jesus Christ, like, you know, like, and the little one will get, one bite for a little one will kill you. So what do you think a big one will be like? Like, geez, you know, and like, you know, there's just these scenes where like they're literally being pursued by them, and you're like, holy shit, and like,
oh, and they jump. They come flying out and jumping at your
that was
face.
a neat, tense scene. I love that scene where they were just trying to go up and up in the building, and I was like, oh my god, that was so cool.
The hallway scene. I don't want to specify, but there's a hallway scene that is already just so fucking intense, and then what happens at the other end of the hallway is like just nightmare. And then everything after that, like even then it leads into a human versus human interaction that is just, or you know, like altercation that is just like, oh my god, this is so my god, I can't say enough good things about this fucking movie. This is in my top, like this could be my favorite movie of the year. It's early to say that, I don't know, but it has a shot for fucking sure.
Me too.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I loved is not only do the spiders look good, but they move right. Like they move like real spiders because they're cloning and mimicking these other spiders. Whereas usually they don't. They don't move like real spiders. So I thought that was cool. I loved this, and I mean, it doesn't have that fun vibe that Sting has, but this is fucking intense.
It's intense, and if you find it, if you find that fun, to be scared out of your fucking mind, like I do, right? Because that's why I like horror, and not much. We were just talking about this on Civil War. It's like I got to go to that to be scared, right? Nope. Here you go. They served it up in a horror movie in this one, man. I was fucking terrified the whole fucking movie.
It was great. Yeah, this is definitely a buckle the fuck up and hold on kind of movie, and I can't recommend it enough.
No, I just think it's a really cool addition to what Sean and I were talking about yesterday on a phone call, being the tower block genre of horror. I think this is a welcome addition. I mean, we've gone over like The Horde before, which is another, enclosed, claustrophobic and black with zombies. For those, has anybody here seen The Citadel before? The Citadel is another one that's just fucking mortifying.
Is that the one with the guy who's? I think I have.
His wife, his pregnant wife, was attacked, and then there's like these. They're hoods, but are they? It's one of those things that kind of attack this building. And then let's talk Attack the Block. Attack the Block is like the fucking number one. I mean, that these types of films, and this movie even has this movie even has its own like Ron's Whedon room moment in it, and it's, you know, that's kind of like where I thought the only lull was in the film. But then, you know, once they decide, okay, well, we're not going to stay here and we're going to go, you know, get the hell out of here, and then shit really hits the fan later on, and it's fucking nuts. But there's, you know, this genre, even this genre of horror film, it's pretty interesting, and it's not overdone yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it worked, and I think that's why they went that route with Evil Dead Rise as well. I think that people are starting to recognize that this is a viable, you know, a viable body that we can use to maneuver around and get our shit out. And I think it works, and I'd like to see where, you know, the different, you know, variances come up when these movies do pop up from time to time, and they are cool to see when they do.
Mhm.
So I mean, with that, you know, there's hit us up online. I've got, you know, a list of these types of movies that I could recommend to you. There's plenty of us that have seen a lot of stuff that are, you know, quasi in this vein, but using similar, you know, set structures and whatnot that make these elements work in horror films. So yeah, definitely, this one is a strong recommend from me, and I don't have enough. I have no bad things to say about it, honestly. So there you have it. Watch it.
Anybody have any final thoughts on Infested before we move on?
Well, I guess one thing that because Anthony just brought up real quick was that the comparison to Attack the Block, and I think that it's kind of an interesting companion piece because it has that same element of the main characters getting looked at by either people in their building or people or the police or the authorities outside as like just these hoodlums and or drug dealers or whatever, and because of the position in society they're at, and like how when something happens they like kind of get like ignored or like, you know,
Mhm.
pushed aside, and like they barely deal with it towards the end and then show up and be like, oh well, this is clearly something you probably kind of started and you were probably to blame for it, and like they're like, no, I was just here, like, and this thing happened, like, and I think it's kind of an interesting little and it's an interesting little piece of commentary and on socioeconomic conditions. So yeah, just another thing to add on to both those films.
Yeah. I before we move on, I wanted to point out because I referenced it, the article in this is in Fangoria Volume 2, number 23, and it's by Abby Bender. So look for that if you are a Fangoria reader. And yeah, director Sébastien Vanicek. I can't wait to see what you do next, especially with Evil and with anything, but the Evil Dead, that excites me. Um, let's do a little bit of the old round robin, and I'm going to start with Anthony because I think Anthony has a movie that is a nice tie-in to this because it's another Tower Block movie. Am I correct?
That's right.
What do you got?
It's called Lockdown Tower, also streaming on Shutter. It is, well, quick synopsis. Folks wake up in their tower block one day and open the door, and there's nothing outside. There's just a black void that is highly acidic that just eats the world or has possibly eaten the world. And that's just the beginning of the film. The rest of it is about, you know, the inner workings of um, how to survive day to day in this place with limited, you know, rations and commodities that you can use to survive off of. It's pretty fucking bleak, I might
Yeah.
add. It is sad, and again, from a lot of films that you see out there these days that kind of lead into almost post-apocalyptic environments, like to see that confined inside of a tower block building is fucking terrifying. There's a lot of fucked up shit that goes on in here, and I won't spoil any of it, honestly, just because it's definitely worth a watch. I just finished it myself probably about 45 minutes ago, and I'm still digesting it, honestly. I'm still trying to, you know, decompress it, and it's fucking rough. I actually would love to sit down and watch that one again, just because its acting is intense, its camera work is pretty good. I mean, and I'll be honest, yeah, as far as acting goes, everybody does a fantastic job across the board. Um, as far as playing, roles of people that have had these, everyday lives that are suddenly thrust into these conditions where they now have to step up and be this other thing, but that other thing is in like direct combatants with other people that have the same ideals. So that's all I'm gonna say about that, but it is a damn good movie. I haven't had time to do any notes on it. Sean, if you've got the director's name, that'd be great. I don't have that because, again, I just sat down and finished it a couple of moments before we began recording. However, strong recommend. And again, in the vein of like these tower block horror movies, this is one that definitely like fits very well and is extremely fucked. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I watched this 2 nights before I watched Infested. Just I had one of those nights where I'd watch something else and I knew I was going to be up late. I'm like, I'm not tired, I'm gonna throw something else on, and I had the indecision, thumb where I'm just flipping, and I was like, fuck this, and I just landed on it. Never heard of it before. I know that this is a subgenre that I like and like exploring and haven't seen a whole hell of a lot of. You mentioned a couple movies yesterday that I'd never even heard of, so that's great. I've seen quite a few. Watched it, and it starts, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's kind of like Dawn of the Dead, but like they're even just removing the zombie thing entirely and just going with like this low budget, like, no, there's literally just a black void outside, so you don't even see anything. I'm like, okay, let's, and it was so much like, so I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a moment early on where like this starts and some time progresses, real time, not real time, but and then it's just like the screen goes black and there's a title card that lets you know there's been a time jump, right? And I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. And there's a couple of those.
Yeah.
And I was like, by the last time I saw one, I was like, oh God, not again. Not again. How much worse can this possibly get? And man, it's rough. It's a rough flick. Director, I'm not gonna say, it's another French film. So it ended up being a perfect, like watching Infested, it was just so perfect. But Guillaume Niclou, probably not saying that correct. That's the director. Just yeah, it's on Shudder. It came out in 2022, and it's French. I had not, like I said, I had not heard of it. It's also known as The Tower. So when you look up Lockdown Tower, it's got a thumbnail and it says The Tower. I think it's the same thumbnail that's on Shudder that says Lockdown Tower. So it's probably known as one thing in France, one thing. But also, like, as I was watching it, or after I watched it the next day, I was like trying to look it up on Letterboxd and IMDb, and I couldn't remember the exact title. So I would type in things like Lockdown or variations on it, and stuff would come up, and I'd be like, oh wait, that's not the movie. So there's a bunch of movies with similar titles, and that's my long-winded way of saying that. But it's a recommend for me as well. You know what this is? This is John Hillcoat's cinematic adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's The Road, but in a fucking high-rise tenement building, basically.
100%.
Like, there's so many similarities.
I can see that.
100%.
I started watching this this morning. I watched half of it and decided it was not for me. It reminded me a lot of The Divide with Michael Biehn.
Yes.
Which is a very good movie. I saw it once. I don't need to ever see it again. That movie fucked me up. It also kind of reminded me of Blindness, and that was another one that really fucked with me. So I got to the halfway point, texted Sean, I think I know what this is. Is it going to go in a different direction, or is it just going to be one of those movies where they're exploring how depraved people get when everything breaks down. And Sean said that it was only getting worse from there, so I noped out of it. But I do definitely see the comparison to The Road, though.
Well, that's Lockdown Town. Know what you're getting into, but I definitely think it's worth watching. And
Hey, just because something's hard does not mean it's not worth it.
no, I agree. It can really this one is it'll put you. I feel like it could put you in a dark spot. There's times when I watch shit because I'm kind of a wuss sometimes, and like this, it left a film on me, but I didn't feel like I needed to cry. But it's dark. It might make some people feel bad and cry. So just know what you're getting into. Ray, what have you seen, or read, or sung? What have you sung?
Recently, a little bit back, read a fantastic horror novel that I picked up at Skylight Books. I'm gonna do a little thing for Skylight because they are out here in LA. They're in the Los Feliz area, and they're a fantastic little bookstore. Just great. Um, so if you're in the area and you just want to hit up a great little bookstore, check them out. They should be, go. I like to support small businesses, and this place is great, and it's right next to the Los Feliz Theater, so you can see something and then go walk the bookstore. And I guess the other reason I kind of say that is because I walked in one time after seeing a movie there and just went to the horror shelf, and I was so happy with the just girth of varying horror authors that they had. And it's kind of a rare thing nowadays. Like I went to a Barnes and Noble, I was so disappointed because everything was either like Stephen King or his son and like two other authors. And I was like, come on, man, there's so many more people out there. And I just feel like they're not getting enough attention. And like they had so much stuff on their shelf that I was just making a list of things that I'm like, I'm going to come back and buy this. I'm going to come back and get this. And one of these things that I ended up buying and reading was this book called And Then I Woke Up by Malcolm Devlin. It's great. It's not very long. It's only 166 pages. It seems like from when you read when you hear the premise that it's just going to be some kind of like zombie kind of infestation film or story. It's about a guy named Spence who, after a virus sweeps the world, is one of the cured, living in a facility, being treated for the virus that he had. And from what the understanding is, there was this event that took place, and people became bloodthirsty monsters and started attacking each other. And now he has been taken in. He's in this facility. He's being cured for what happened. And he's going through a lot of therapy, and it's all told from his perspective, and group sessions and things like that. And as he describes it, like when he first got there, he didn't want to talk to anybody either, and then he started to slowly open up. This woman shows up new to the hospital. He starts to slowly talk to her. At first she's very closed off, and then she starts to talk to him too, and she convinces him, hey, let's escape, let's go find my old crew and see if we can help them. And you think, oh wow, so she's gonna try and go out and help these people that are like, were like kind of zombies or something, like monsters like her, and help them get rehabilitated too. And as the story progresses, it's not a story about zombies. It is a story about pandemics. It is a story about how we react to these things, but it's a story about how media and our brains can reshape our realities and change how we understand the world. And it was so different and so original.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic read. It's so good. it's one of those things that, like, I honestly, since a few years back when Sean gifted me another fantastic book, my best friend's exorcism by Grady Hendrix, that I've started going and, like, I will buy and start reading a novel, a horror novel, because I read the premise and I go, that sounds like something I would watch. And this is tight. The writing's good. It doesn't waste time. It just tells you the story. It tells you tells you about the characters and what they've been through and what's happening with them, and it just flows. And it's very well done. And, like, it has this crazy strange cover, and it's a pink cover.
Hmm.
And then you get to this point, and I sat there looking at this cover going, like, I don't understand the point of this cover. And then I was reading the book, reading the book, reading the book, and I got 3/4 into it, and then this moment happened, and I went, "Oh, that makes sense. Shit." And, like, it's so cool that they did that cover, because when you
Yeah.
hit that moment in the novel, you're like, "Wow,
Yeah.
that is a big moment." It's so good. So if you're looking for something to read out there, check this out. It's a fast read, and he's a small author. He's kind of getting out there. Like, support the good stuff, and hopefully those people will continue to make great stuff. Totally worth the time.
Yeah. Well said. You summarized it very well. So for the listeners, Ray loves this novel so much that when I was in town and we went to Los Feliz 3 for Beyond Fest, or no, it wasn't for Beyond Fest. This was just in January. We went there to see Poor Things, and
Yes.
afterwards you're like, I want to take you to this bookstore, and then you like bought me the book. Even you put it in my hands, and I read it when I got back, and it's 167 pages, tight fucking read, and really it reminded me, if anybody's out there has read, David Moody had a book called Hater, and it had two sequels, Dog Blood Blues, and I forget what the third one was. And they had a similar kind of concept, not exact, but similar. And so this kind of struck a harmonic with that for me, so I enjoyed that. But this is yeah, when you get to like the whys and the wherefores, which aren't exhaustively outlined either. Like it's just the
Yeah.
way that the book is written, you start to understand what exactly happened and whatnot. There's no moment where like some government agent comes in and is like, well, here's what happened. It's not like that. It's really organic and it's really well
Yeah.
done. There's no exposition thrown down your throat. And for a large part of the book, you dropped in and you don't really know. He's referencing stuff. You're like, I don't know what he's referencing, but it'll all make sense
Yeah.
eventually. And the way it comes together is pretty great. So I can back you up there. I thought that this was And Then I Woke Up by Malcolm Devlin. I thought it was fantastic. And thank you for the
Yeah.
book.
No problem, sir.
Missy, what have you seen?
I recently watched Wyrmwood, Road of the Dead, directed by Kaya Roach Turner, who also did Sting. I watched it probably about a week ago, and this is exactly the kind of post-apocalyptic movies that I love. It basically takes Mad Max, adds zombies, and cranks it up to 37.
Nice.
It's great. The effects are practical. It's a complete gore fest. It's got a goofy, snarky humor to it. I mean, we have combustible zombies and people driving around in zombie-powered Mad Max armored trucks. And this, like, the basic premise is this guy is trying to find his sister who got kidnapped during the zombie apocalypse. And this scientist is doing weird zombie experiments on her, and then she starts mind controlling zombies. But it's just a lot of fun. It's gory, it's goofy, it's fast paced. The effects are fantastic. I mean, don't expect anything serious because it's not, but it's a really, really fun time. And there's also a sequel out there done by the same guy with most of the same cast. Wyrmwood Apocalypse. But I love this, and after the bad experience of Civil War, Arcadia and Wyrmwood washed all that away.
Nice.
So I mean, anybody who likes, if you like especially the goofy post-apocalyptic movies from the 80s, you'll like this. It has that really over-the-top feel to it, but it's even bloodier.
This was on Netflix forever. I remember seeing the image of the masked dude,
Mhm.
the thumbnail for years. And it just I think this was around the time or a couple years after I went back and rewatched the original Mad Max and realized I really actually didn't think it was very good at all. And it kind of turned me off to anything that suggested it might be
What
Mad
did you
Max
fucking
like.
say?
Oh yeah, I've had people almost threaten my life over this.
Okay, but this actually feels more than if you liked Mad Max Fury Road,
Yeah, it's more like that.
it's more like that.
Yeah.
Fury Road is a different beast in the older films, and even that
Yeah, it
first,
is.
like,
I mean, I love both, but it totally is. This is much more like Fury Road Mad Max.
like
And
Road Warrior is just a little slow. I'm sorry.
it is.
It's a revenge film.
Right. I mean, of the old school ones, I like Thunderdome best, but this is just fun and goofy.
Master Blaster.
And if you liked like Mad Max Fury Road, add zombies and buckets of blood, you get this.
Nice.
So somebody needs to pick the original Mad Max for something so I can have a reason to watch it again, because I saw it as a kid. It disturbed me. I held it in high regard. I watched it in like 2011 and I just was like, wow, I was so wrong about this movie. And there are so many people that have been like, you're fucking wrong, that I just feel like maybe I need to see it again. And maybe it was just in my head, it was a really disturbing movie from when I saw it as a kid and what I got when I watch it.
Do you mean Mad Max?
No, I mean Mad Max. I mean Mad Max.
Okay.
I think I mean Mad Max, but
because Road Warrior is technically the first film. It's kind of the start of the end of the road. And then Mad Max is like full on tilt, like this is more time and like shit has gone really sideways.
What I remember,
it's Mad
Max. Mad Max was for.
Yeah.
I thought it's Road. Oh, you're
no,
right.
Mad
Max
Max, Road Warrior, and then Thunderdome.
Right. I'm thinking. Okay, yeah, you're right.
The original Mad Max doesn't hold up very well. Road Warrior is better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Thunderdome, in my opinion, that's the fun one. Road Warrior is a revenge film. Thunderdome is more in the line of stuff where stuff like Wyrmwood comes from. But the original Mad Max doesn't, I don't think it holds up very well. You're better off just going straight to Road Warrior.
So I think that's the one you meant when you said it was slow, Ray, because the thing with the original Mad Max, like I remembered as a kid, like the whole sequence where they kill his family being so disturbing.
Yeah.
And when I watched it, I was like, I guess I saw this at a really young age because there's nothing fucking disturbing about this at all.
I think it was disturbing for its time.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I was probably pretty young when I saw it. But anyway, people always defend the driving, and I was like, I guess, yeah, sure. I mean, it's not the French Connection, but I mean, I guess the driving, but that wasn't really what I was watching it for. I was watching it because I remembered it being this really fucked up revenge movie, and that's not what I got. I just kind of got a slog. So I know, send your death threats to the horrorvision@gmail.com. Believe me, it's nothing I haven't heard before. But I would be willing to watch it again because maybe it just didn't match up to my memory, and I'd watch it again and be like, "No, it's okay." But I don't know. Anyway, whatever. So Wyrmwood, and then I can't wait. So I will watch that. And when you watch Wyrmwood Apocalypse, because I know you're going to watch that like tomorrow, I wanna hear about that as well. I'm very curious. I'm just going to talk very briefly. This one I watched like a while ago, Megalomaniac on Shudder. It was had been waiting for it because the trailer made it look like it was going to be this like really almost surreal serial killer movie. And it's really well made. Directed by, I'm not going to say this last name, Karim Woolhide, and written by them. It's about it's a very unique looking film. It's very well made. It starts with a guy that kills women in terrible ways, and I guess he dies, and he has procreated with the woman he had captive and has kids, and then he dies, and so then the son carries on the legacy, and the daughter, I don't know what exactly she does, but man, I don't know. Again, the trailer made it look like there were going to be these like kind of surreal moments in it, and they were fleeting and not very substantial. And really, it was just a movie that, while being well made, I just felt like it took all the wrong lessons from the 2000s French extreme movement. Just a lot of like, I don't know. I just question when people just go out of their way to make a movie about people that do terrible things to women over and over and over again. And I don't want to suggest anything about the filmmaker. I just don't understand like what the point was. And especially because it just didn't, I mean, there's a whole gratifying subplot with the sister and some people that she works with that are scum. But even that like relationship was like, I got what they were saying about it, but it was just fucked up and done in this way where I'm like, oh man, it's like that. I remember telling Ray this about, of all things, here's where I'm going to go with my analogy, Sucker Punch, where I like Zack Snyder, which a movie I never saw, and I'm totally fine judging. Zack Snyder was all about like, no, I'm pointing out all this shit about like anime and these, whatever. But it's like, yeah, Zack, but when you're doing it in a way where you're doing it too, you're not just like, it's not just an indictment, you're reveling in it. And so I feel like this movie revels in this just, I don't know if misogynistic is the right word. I mean, the characters are definitely that way, but I don't know. I wanted so much more based on that trailer, and it's not what I got. And it's, again, well made, great score, great blood and, gore effects, but it just, I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way. So there you go. That's Megalomaniac. And it's on Shudder. I think it dropped two months ago, maybe, is when I watched it, and I just had it in the back pocket. Because everything else that I've been watching, we've either talked about or we're gonna talk about. So but okay, well, so let's wrap it. So everybody go and watch fucking Infested. And when you do, let us know how you felt about it. You can hit us up on YouTube, where this will be. You can hit us up on, I don't know, fucking Twitter, Twitter, Facebook.
You can leave scrawlings on your local, barroom toilet walls. We'll
read them.
Yeah,
we'll read them. I'll stop and have a beer, go into the bathroom, and read all the comments.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much what reading the comments on the internet is like, isn't it? Kind of like reading scrawl in the bathroom in a men's room. Not too much different. But for the Horror Vision, I'm Sean.
I am Anthony.
I'm Missy.
And I'm Ray.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20, soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick.
and humanity is the infection. The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus. Available where books are sold.
Hello, welcome to the Baloney Vision. My name is Oscar Meyer. Tension breaker had to be done.
That's okay.